Welcome to Awaken the Mind, the NLP and Hypnosis Guide, hosted by David Uhas.
Yeah, relax.
You're listening to Awaken the Mind, the NLP and Hypnosis Guide, a podcast that inspires the curious to the professional to discover meaningful content and pursue their passions. My name is David Uhas, and I'm a master NLP practitioner and hypnotist, best known for losing over 100 pounds and running 6 marathons in 2 years. And I'm sitting down with hypnotists, NLP practitioners, and coaches to talk about their process, the lessons they've learned, and how to make an impact in the lives of others. Our guest today is Kelley T. Woods. She is a hypnosis practitioner from Washington State, where she has operated a private practice for 18 years. She helps clients of all ages and is known for her work in pediatric hypnosis, along with helping people who suffer from chronic issues. Kelley has written several industry books and is a frequent instructor at national and international hypnosis conferences. The reason of Kelley being here today is that I saw her at Hypnothoughts Live just recently in Vegas, and she was talking about gambling. And here locally, there is a casino that is coming to town, and I've already had some clients contact me about their challenges with the local casino machines that you see in the bars and the restaurants and all over the place. So please welcome our guest today and give a warm welcome to Kelley Woods. Hello, Kelley.
Oh, Dave, thank you for having me on your show today. And I'm thrilled that you asked me to come and talk about this topic. I actually call it the gambling trance, which fits in perfectly with our field of hypnosis, of course, to help people who aren't familiar with the gambling trance, who maybe haven't had a problem or maybe they have. Just by listening to this will kind of give them a visceral experience of what it feels like. And so what I'm going to do is just share an image here, and I'm going to play this audio. It's only a couple of minutes long, and so your listeners can even just close their eyes if they want and let themselves get absorbed in it. And here we go. And the dragon for the gambler looks like this. His tail is the handle of a slot machine. His eyes have rolling dollar signs. Sharp claws grasp piles of cash, and his fiery breath shoots down and burns the money to ashes. His skin is iridescent, shifting colors that flash in confusing images, some mirroring the reflection of my sad and unfocused gaze. The dragon hovers near my neck, gripping tightly my shoulders, his wings flapping with the echoes of all of the pain experienced by anyone who's ever suffered in this way. And even when I'm not in his cave, I'm aware of the dragon and the heavy weight it presses upon me. The dragon lures me into his cave with promises of adventure and fun, and most importantly, company. But shortly after arriving in that hellish space, a part of me realizes that I now feel lonelier than ever. I'm aware of shadows of others nearby. I can even hear the sounds of their dragons munching loudly on bones. And my bones ache a bit in response. And every now and then, an echo of a jubilant shout moves through the cave, and the shadows quicken, hoping to grasp just a fraction of that feeling. My dragon feeds a fire in me that makes me forget everything outside the cave. I fail to notice the lack of windows or even any timekeeping device. I forget to eat or drink, or even think of the people who depend upon me. And most importantly, I forget to take care of myself. All I'm aware of is the dragon and those flashing colored lights and the promises never kept. and beneath the frenzy beats a slow, dull roar of loneliness. Dave, how did that make you feel listening to that?
It's interesting. There was this scared feeling, yet like there were hooks, and I'm just kind of speaking out loud. Yeah, just very, very dark and hopeless. They're not a good feeling.
No, it's not a good feeling, and unfortunately, many people get trapped in that. And I've had many clients who have come to me for help, and it's interesting that problem gambling is one of those dirty little secrets that a lot of people just keep hidden until it gets to a point, it escalates in their life where they really need to make some changes. And this is an area where hypnotists can really make a difference.
So some people are able to go gambling. I mean, I went to a casino and actually gambled because every time I came back, they said, "How much did you win?" I'm like, "I didn't even gamble." So I finally would put a $5 bill in the slot machine, lose it, and walk away. Maybe that's a good thing. But what is it? What is the difference between people who are able to do that and people that can't do that?
And certainly there are a lot of people who can, gamble recreationally, and like you, for example, that was a great experience for you because you lost. And so our brain tends to create these patterns of repetition based on our experience. I think someone that can do that has limits. They can stop, and they're also not using gambling in order to address some other need as an answer for, an escape from reality, for example, because there's a lot of reasons why people go to gamble. Imagine you were there with friends and it was a form of entertainment, and that's awesome. We have these fantastic casinos being built, and it's basically, a lot of it is free entertainment. You can go there and spend very little money. You can enjoy, affordable meals and sometimes free entertainment. But for people who have a problem or who have a pathological disorder, which, is an even extreme form, these places are just traps. And, there's no real rhyme or reason who falls prey to that. Even very intelligent, successful people can develop a gambling problem. And, we'll talk a little bit later about why that happens. But I think it's really important to look at the reasons why people gamble recreationally, for fun, as a social construct. When you're going there with friends, it's something that you can share and enjoy together. People go there because of the allure of winning, or maybe they believe that they're lucky, or it's their birthday and it's going to be a lucky day for them. People also gamble, as I mentioned before, as an escape from reality, to deal with stress, depression, anxiety in their life. Some people might be new to a town and they don't have any social stuff set up yet, so they can go to a casino and be around people and not be isolated. Often people who are going through transition, whether it's moving or an empty nest, that kids have gone off to college or moved out, or perhaps they are divorced or widowed. And so this is a whole new way of life, and going to gamble is a relief from that kind of stress too. They might just be bored. Maybe they have retired and there's this big void in their life now. They have no sense of purpose, so they can go and have gambling fill up that void. But whatever reason they're using gambling for, there is a thing called the gambling trance. And that's all based on how gambling is created, especially slot machines. Those machines are designed to elicit the release of dopamine, that feel good chemical that just makes us feel great. And just like other addictions of alcohol or drug use, it can be a progressive thing that happens to a person. It's kind of interesting. In doing some of the research, I, I discovered that men and women use gambling in different ways. Men primarily go to gamble for financial reasons, to gain that money, to win, whereas women often use it to deal with anxiety. And they can even be doing different types of gaming. So people who use slot machines, for example, are usually more susceptible to anxiety because it's a real low skill thing. You don't really have to think. And anxiety is often created and maintained by, having those racing thoughts, all the confusion that goes on. So by sitting in front of a slot machine, all of that starts to fade. And as a hypnotist, you recognize what's happening, right? When we're able to calm our thoughts or to let go of all of the distractions of the day and the worries and stress. People who play table games tend to suffer more from issues of depression. And so it's that interaction with the other players that helps lift their mood and the challenge of thinking about the game and being able to make decisions in the game. So it's kind of interesting, as your listeners are listening to this, and if they've been gambling, they can start to think about what is it that attracts me to gambling? Is it just for the entertainment as it was for you, Dave? Or is there something deeper that I'm trying to satisfy, a need that I'm trying to fill when I'm going to these establishments?
So not trying to vilify the gambling industry, I think recognizing that some people are just prone to do this as a way to cope with some challenges in their life. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And we all have challenges in life. We all go through certain stages of life that can feel uncomfortable because they're new. And, I think one of a hypnotherapist's causes is to help people get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, with being able to navigate these changes in life and realizing that, when something is new and unfamiliar, you're going to feel stress, you're going to feel discomfort, you're going to feel awkward or even self-conscious about it, and it's okay. But, we live in a society that's not really comfortable with that idea. And we've somehow bought into this idea that we need to be happy all the time, which doesn't really create resilience in a person. So that's one of the things that I do with these clients, is to help them move through those times of loss or grief or stress without having to try to self-medicate. And slot machine play especially is a form of self-medication. It's a detachment from all of those things, whether it's just for an hour or for a longer period of time. It's interesting because one of the other reasons for people going and playing these machines is often because they have chronic pain. And, we've had a lot of attention and changes in policy in individual states. Here in Washington state, for example, several years ago, there were a lot of mandates about restricting prescriptions of opiates due to the overdose increases. And that has left a lot of people who were using them for pain management out on a ledge. We do have the legal use of cannabis products, which is another option for them. But for going from using for years opiates for pain management and then having nothing, that can be shocking to a person. And when I was doing research for my project here, I encountered a man at a slot machine in one casino who had an amputation of one of his hands. And I asked him, how often he comes, and he says he comes every day. He takes all of his disability income. And I asked him why. He said it's the only time when he is pain-free, because he had phantom pain. Well, of course, I'm a hypnotist, so you know what I did. I helped him relieve that without the use of slot machines. So, just getting the word out that hypnosis is a wonderful option for people who are in pain, whether it's physical pain or emotional, mental pain, we can help them. It's important to know that Yeah, there are people who have serious gambling problems at pathological stage, and 1 in 5 of these gambling addicts actually attempt suicide at some point. So it can be a serious, devastating issue for them. And, they lose so much in their life. They lose not only their money, they can lose their jobs, their homes, their families, and of course, their self-respect. And so being able to intervene, and we have, organizations like Gamblers Anonymous. There are many places where people can have access. But when I'm talking about my clients, I'm talking about the ones that are within my scope of practice. And they're the ones that haven't gone quite to that point, but they've realized that it's a problem for them. And often they come to me not for the gambling issue, but maybe for weight loss or anxiety or some of these other typical issues that we help people with. And somewhere along the way, once trust is established, then they say, well, actually, I'm spending a lot of time and money at the casino and I'd like to change that. So I love it when that happens because everything, all these things are integrated. They're all interrelated, and we can't just address symptoms without pulling out, what's really driving it and what they're really trying to achieve through that behavior.
So someone, let's say, is doing some gambling in the different ways that are available, and they don't see it as a problem. At what point does it become, we have these self-sabotaging behaviors. How is someone able to become aware that it's actually sabotaging and they're not in denial?
That's such a great question because there is a level of denial, like all addictive processes. At first it starts out being fun, and maybe they won. Maybe they won a lot of money. And so that really sets up this unrealistic expectation that they'll continue to win. Because when we think about these nice, luxurious, fancy places, well, it takes money to build them and maintain them. And that means that the majority of people lose their money. Now, for someone who doesn't have a problem, they go to a casino with a set amount of money and they're prepared to spend that. That's part of their entertainment budget. But for someone who is developing a problem, they notice that they start to increase the amount that they're losing. They might be spending more money with each visit. Even the amount of money that they're gambling on, like on a slot machine, they might have started out with 50-cent bets, and then that escalates to $1, to $2.50, to $5 a spin. And yes, there are slot machines in some casinos in Las Vegas, in particular. You can find these in the high limit rooms where people can bet up to $500 a spin that takes just a few seconds. And it seems crazy if you haven't been exposed to this insidious process to understand how someone could submit to that. But when it's a progressive thing and you get caught in that loop, the escalation just happens. And so, other signs are that they are absent for blocks of time. They actually lose time. They might go there in the morning and not leave until it's dark at night. Or, their families might complain that they're missing in action. They were supposed to be somewhere and they found out that they weren't there. Just merely the idea that they've tried to stop, but they can't. That's a sign of a dependency at the very least. They might be borrowing money to maintain their gambling habit. They might be stealing money to be maintaining it. We hear many stories of people who were caught embezzling at their workplace, and it was to support the gambling habit. They do a thing called chasing losses. So they continue to gamble in an effort to recoup what they've already lost, which is crazy because a part of them logically knows that they're losing. And yet, guess what happens? We know this term, they suspend disbelief. And that's a term that was originated in Hollywood. Movie makers want their watchers to suspend disbelief. Well, so do these designers of slot machines. they have orchestrated enough into these machines and the whole environment in general to make people suspend disbelief so that they really are caught up in this idea that they're going to win. So other signs, of course, of that gambling can be a problem for a person is, the depression and anxiety, which is ironic, isn't it? I mean, that's sometimes why they're going to these places, is that they want to feel better. And yet it's no longer fun. And they'll even realize that while they're sitting at the machine. I think that, for people who have family and relationships, they can notice that it's affecting that. Many marriages or partnerships can feel the stress if one partner is gambling. But I've also seen couples in casinos fighting, being really irritable, or I've been maybe have struck up a conversation with a man or a woman. And I remember one man told me, "Oh yeah, my wife is over on the other side of the casino. We come here about twice a week, and then we split up. We never even talk to each other." So they're not even sharing that experience as a fun thing together. And it makes you kind of wonder what's really going on in their relationship.
What are some things that if you're close to someone, whether you're family or friend, and you're recognizing some of these symptoms where it's becoming a problem, how do you intervene with that? Is there anything that you can do to help?
Well, again, there are so many correlations to alcohol and drug addiction that you think about it. If your partner has a drinking problem, what can you do about that? Basically, it's up to the person to want to change, number one. So, maybe finding some motivators for change. I know that when it comes to addressing a drinking problem, that men typically will take some action if it affects their job. Women will take action when it affects their relationships. And of course, I'm not trying to be sexist here, but statistics show that that's ultimately what the motivator is. And, but I think awareness is really important. And one of the things that I strive to do with these clients is to educate them, to really lift the veil so that we can get out of that suspended disbelief state about what these places really do and how they are designed. Because, just like helping a person make better choices about the food that they're eating, education is so important, that they learn how to read labels, that they understand how the food industry hires people to do their marketing, hires chemists to design highly palatable foods. The gaming industry hires experts to create an environment that's conducive to not only coming to the place, but staying there for an extended amount of time. It designs these slot machines with some incredible algorithms, some sensory input that basically puts you in a state of suspended animation. I'm going to read here a quote from a book called Addiction by Design by Schull, Schull. And this really can, once again, tell you what the gambling trance is all about. And he writes, the slot machine zone, it's not so much about winning, but about getting into the zone. A rhythm, a response to a fine-tuned feedback loop, a powerful space-time distortion. You hit the button, something happens. You hit it again. Something similar, but not exactly the same happens. Maybe you win, maybe you don't. Repeat, repeat, repeat. It's the pleasure of the repeat, the security of the loop. Everything else falls away. Doesn't that even just sound like a hypnotic induction, Dave?
The earlier when you were playing that audio, and also in Vegas when I heard that, it's strange. There's this, it's scary, but there's almost, I can't really put words to it. It just hooks. There's like these hooks that it feels like you're connected with it.
Yes, it transports you into this other dimension even. And again, the machine is designed to do that. The atmosphere is designed to do that. You're away from all of your normal stimuli in life. That I remember a client who said to me that it's almost like I've hypnotized into being that machine. It's like playing against yourself. I'm the machine and the machine is me. And that gave me chills. It really did. It's almost, some Orwellian play coming in to a person. And I think that, again, awareness, when changing anything, starts first with awareness. And this this kind of problem is so insidious, like I said before, that many people are in denial. They think they're still having fun, even if they're starting to lose hundreds and thousands of dollars. They're able to justify that. That's my entertainment budget. I deserve this. I work hard, or I've been through a lot. So they're able to justify that, just like they are with alcohol, drug addictions, or any other problematic behavior, whether it's shopping or sex addictions, or any of these things that we know on a real visceral level are damaging us.
Yeah.
We're able to justify it, to continue that, because for a while it feels good. It helps answer those needs that I was talking about. Some of those neurological and physiological reactions when we're sitting in front of the slot machine is so similar to drinking alcohol and using drugs. It's eliciting the same release of the dopamine, for example. And for problem gamblers, the research has showed that the areas in the prefrontal cortex are actually changed, and that's where our ability to judge and to use that rational logical thought is maintained. And these start to change because principles of neuroplasticity are all about how the brain changes to the stimuli, to whatever it's exposed to. It's conditioned into this. And so that these people who are gaming like this in a frequent way actually start to have kind of a dysregulated reward system, and it takes more and more. And the interesting thing about some of the programming of these machines is that they don't get that dopamine rush just when they win. They get it when there's a near win.
That's fascinating. The thrill.
It's the thrill, and they have designed into these machines some virtual real mapping that's called a deceptive near miss. And if you watch next time, if you go and play a slot machine, or you can even play a free game online, or you can watch on YouTube. There's a bunch of players that have YouTube channels with thousands of viewers who watch them play slot machines in casinos. Yeah. And so you can watch how these machines operate. And what happens is when there's a near miss, that means that there might be, let's say, 2 out of 3 symbols that are the jackpot symbol. And then the third one just comes close to it, but not enough to give it to you. So your whole nervous system is accelerated. There will even be sound effects building up to it. The suspense builds, and well, guess what? That's eliciting that dopamine, because dopamine is a craving drug. It's what we feel when we're craving, when we're anticipating eating something good, having an alcoholic drink, or winning on a slot machine. So this gets elicited over and over and over again, conditioning the brain on different levels towards staying in this loop. And it's pretty fascinating.
With NLP, thinking about that, and this was mind-blowing to me when I learned this, that we can only perceive 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information from our sensory inputs at a time. And again, not vilifying whether it's the food industry or the gambling industry or all these other industries that potentially could be damaging to people. That's not that much. I mean, 7 to 9 pieces of information consume our reality. How does that play into this?
Well, I think it's a great point, because the overstimulation that people feel when they're sitting in front of these machines, we know that as a confusion induction. from hypnosis, right?
Yeah.
There's so much coming in that really shocks a person out of their normal awareness. And it comes visually, it comes auditory, it also comes kinesthetically. They even have seats now that vibrate with the winds. The more you win, the bigger the vibration. I sat at the Sex and the City machine and felt some of that. Woohoo! So the rewards are many when you go to this. And of course, I'm joking here, but when we realize that it's coming, I'm surprised they haven't had some kind of scratch and sniff option, but I'm sure that's coming next.
Puts out a little smell,
Right. But especially when we're talking about those fake wins, they can give up to 200 of those a minute. And the speed at which you can bet on these. Did you ever go to Reno, 20, 30 years ago when that was a cool place to go to?
No, I have not.
I went there a few times with my mom. It was our annual trip, and it was a blast. And we'd bring like $200 with us, and that would last us for 4 days. Sometimes we won, sometimes we didn't. So when they had coins, your hands would get really dirty with handling these dollar coins, and you'd hear the sounds of them clinking into the metal trays as you won, and all that was part of the excitement. And but that's the old-fashioned one-arm bandit. You'd have to pull that cranky handle on it to make the reels spin. So it could take a while for those reels to spin and land, and then the next one, and the next one. Modern slot machines, you push a button, and it takes seconds. And not only that, but you can stop the spin. And if you go to a casino nowadays, you will see some of these people who are in the state of suspended animation hitting this quickly, that button, so that they can effectively make a bet every second.
Wow.
And when they're betting $2, $3, $5, can you imagine how that money's going? And so this has increased the revenue for casinos. It's estimated that up to 65% of a casino's revenues comes from problem gamblers, which are maybe about 15% of the people that frequent a casino. These people are basically subsidizing your experience. Someone like you goes in and drops $5 in a machine. Well, you're getting everything that's being paid for by these problem gamblers, which is not your responsibility. But that's a frame that I tell my clients is, how does that feel to be paying for Dave's fun? Do you like doing that? And most people don't like doing that, even though you're a really nice guy. But one of the other tactics is that they've really reduced or even sometimes eliminated the need to use cash. Once your money is put into a machine, it's converted to credits. So that changes the meaning of your money. And when you remove it, it's a paper ticket. So not only can you not just walk away with your cash in your pocket and leave, you've got this ticket in your hand and you need to go and find a place to redeem it at, which is usually not very, very convenient. It's over at one end of the casino, or they just make it a little bit tougher for you to do that. And it's much easier. And then you have to walk past a bunch of other machines that could be alluring to you. I noticed in Vegas, I was walking on the casino floor and I heard someone talk to me, and I heard this, "Hey, come over here." And I thought it was one of our fellow colleagues. And I'm looking at the friggin' slot machine talking to me.
I was sitting down at coffee and I heard one whistle at me. I thought it was somebody whistling. Same thing, trying to get my attention. And I turned, I'm like, there was nobody there.
Right. And we're programmed to respond to voices and to whistles and everything. So some of these ploys are just, amazing. One of the other tactics that these machines are designed to do is a gradual siphoning of your money. So they give you these kinds of false wins. If you bet $1, then you win 20 cents or 50 cents. And it gives you all the sounds and the joys of it. And you're kind of like, ooh, a win. But in actuality, you lost 80 or 50 cents. And so it'll just whittle away at your credits there, your balance in the machine. And, you know, the industry describes this as giving the player a smoother ride. I love that phrase. It's a smoother ride down the
Oh,
slippery slope, right?
yeah.
So, you know, when I explained that, you know, the very carefully crafted dynamics of slot machine play in particular, people, that veil starts to lift, and they resonate. They're like, how that's happened to me. I know how that's happened. And, you know, some people get so absorbed in their play that, like I said, hours go by. And have you ever noticed there really, except for exits, there's no windows in a casino? There are no clocks.
Yeah. I came down at like 3 in the morning and it looked exactly like it did at 2 in the afternoon. I mean,
Yeah,
the place was filled and the lighting was exactly the same. And like
exactly.
you said, no clocks.
Right. But they do have all kinds of luxury amenities there. They'll have free, sometimes, you know, usually free drinks of some kind. In Washington State, they can't give free alcohol drinks, but they have you know, free other beverages. They will have often free food. They might have a buffet. They will comp meals to people who play enough. And, you know, many people get what's called a player's card, which is similar to having your grocery store card, right? You're a valued member. You're part of this club, and they will mail out um, specials for you. They'll give you like some free play or invite you to free events that they're holding. But they will track you on that card, so they can find all about your gambling habit. They know how much you spent, how you spent it, how long you gambled, and that way they get a pretty good profile of who you are. And for people who are problem gamblers, those who really have a big problem, they even have a term for those, and they call them a whale.
Oh,
They're,
nice.
yeah, yeah, I know, nice term, right? So they're the people that are those contributors of, you know, most of the casino uh, profits. And and they are courted heavily. They're given free rooms. Sometimes, if they're from out of state, they're given free airfare because, you know, the casino really values these people. They might even have their own concierge host that's going to be taking care of them and arranging, getting them free tickets for shows in town, that kind of a thing, or driving them places. And these hosts are often paid not just their hourly wage or salary, but they're on a commission basis. So that the more that the gambler pays, the more income that the host does. And, you know, people fall for this. We like to be liked. We like to believe that we're special. And this kind of VIP treatment really plays into the emotional drivers that create and sustain a gambling problem. I was just going to give an example here. I'll share another image here. Yeah, this is a great example. If you look at any casino promotions, any advertising, you're going to get the image on the left. It's going to be healthy-looking people, whether they're young people or older adults, having fun together. A social event where they're really enjoying, and, you know, look at the raised fist, they just won something, and big grins and laughter, and, you know, the whole atmosphere just seems so fantastic. But then when you actually go into a casino, the image on the right is more likely the reality of what you're going to see. People who, even though they're within a few feet of each other's proximity, they're completely oblivious of each other. They're in that gambling trance. Their eyes are glazed over, their faces are slack. I, you know, sometimes you'll be seeing some negative emotions. Sometimes you'll see some happiness and joy. You'll get those jubilant cries of winning echoing through every now and then. But for the most part, this is what you'll see because they're just in that gambling trance and oblivious, like I said, of what's really going on around them, and even of how they're feeling.
Yeah, the one on the left is just so attractive, and I want to be that. I want to be like that. I want to be around that. And
Right.
that might be what it gets me to go there.
Yeah. Well, marketing is a thing, isn't it? It's a very powerful thing that promises one thing, which is the sexy fun and good luck and fortune. And again, being part of something where there are other people, because we have such pronounced levels of isolation in our country. Uh, people are getting more and more isolated, especially as our population is aging. And, and I think finding answers for people to, besides going to gambling casinos, to answer that need is really one of the best things that we can do. And I work to have all kinds of resources in place for those kinds of clients who, are suffering because of isolation. And there, of course, we can find resources in our own communities. I've even, like, with permission, introduced clients to each other. I've had some chronic pain clients who uh, decided that going for a walk would be helpful. And they've been more than happy to meet each other and they become friends. And it kind of solves that problem. So, understanding that just reaching out and being brave, even if we're a little bit afraid of that, even if it's uncomfortable about going and meeting somebody new, can be the solution. But, in talking with you here, my main goal is to bring awareness of how all of this can capture anybody who isn't paying attention. It's like any other addictive process. We need to be monitoring our own process within, how we're really experiencing something. And I like to say that I live hypnotically, which doesn't mean that I'm in some kind of daydream trance, but I really have a deep awareness of my surroundings and what's happening. And I also have this kind of ability to have selective attention, to pay attention to the things in life that are helpful to me, and knowing what's safe to ignore. And being able to largely ignore casino gambling can help me. And being able to understand that, yeah, I can go there and enjoy myself with limitations might be helpful for me too. So it's up to each individual to know how to do that. But I think knowing and having that awareness is where it really starts.
Do you work with people online or just in person? Do you have groups that you put together?
At this point, it's been primarily in person. And this is really what got my interest, that, hey, this is a growing problem. It's a growing issue. I have, within a 20-minute drive of my town, in my county, 4 different gaming casinos. They're all run by Indian tribes. And, there's some real upsides of these. These tribes have been able to flourish. They've been able to establish resources for their own community. They donate regularly to, the community at large. But there is this underbelly. And there is a percentage of the population that's developing a problem with it. And so, that's why I think it's so important to come up with these solutions and these answers. I do also do some online work for people that are out of the area. It's interesting because many of these clients respond beautifully to online work because they're already entranced to a screen. Their brain already knows how to isolate and just go right into that video screen. This is true. I work a lot with kids, really. This is also true with working with children online, because they're used to doing gaming or, going online and watching YouTube videos, that kind of a thing. So that's already been programmed into them as a learning state, which is interesting to think of that as a learning state, but it is. And we're capable of using it in a good way or allowing ourselves to be taught whatever is pumped into our brain. So I'm into using my own autonomy and choosing what I'm going to be taught as much as possible.
I know you don't want to talk about yourself, but I just want to know about your 15-year study with karate. That is so cool.
Yeah, well, let's see. I started that just about the same time that I started studying hypnosis. It was just a coincidence, or was it? We know about the synchronicity of life. But I had started homeschooling my son. He was 8 years old. And so I was looking for a resource for, some physical activity for him, but also where he could find a good male mentor and be involved with other kids because he wasn't in public school. And I found a wonderful dojo right in my town. And after a couple of years of my son attending and really seeing some wonderful things happening for him as far as self-discipline and respect for himself and others, and even his physical development. Uh, we went to Hawaii for the Junior Olympics for karate,
Oh, wow.
and that was a fantastic experience. And on the way home in the plane, I went to our sensei and said, "Okay, sign me up," because I'd been spending 2 years there watching my kids sitting on the sidelines, and frankly, it looked like so much fun. And by then, I knew enough about hypnosis. I was actually practicing that I saw a lot of the correlations between the martial arts and between hypnosis. That ability to use the mind to control the body, the need to push past barriers of fear or self-doubt. These are all intrinsic in our work with hypnosis. And the fact that we actually become what we believe. And I saw it played out on the dojo floor or at competitions all the time. So then I got to step into it and experience it myself, which was pretty amusing. I was, I think, 45 at the time. And I remember running around the dojo floor with all these little kids because I was able to go during day classes with them. And one of them looked up at me and she said, "Is it really hard for you?" And I said, "Yes, please keep a distance. I might collapse on you and hurt you." But what is it about us that makes us persevere and move through these kinds of things? Some people are born with that kind of a power in them. Some people learn it. Sometimes it's modeled for us. I was able to, it was a combination for me, I think. And so I was able to let that grow. And it's really benefited my hypnosis practice in so many ways because as a hypnotist, we're often needing to educate people, going and doing presentations. And sometimes we run into some, fear-based obstacles, people that just don't understand what hypnosis really is. And that can take some perseverance to push through that and, not only educate, but give people an experience and how easy it is to be engaged hypnotically. And, just like this slot machine information, we see that it happens organically. It happens all the time. So why not use it with good intent?
Here locally, they've been talking about it for a while to open up a casino, and it appears that it's inevitable that it's coming here in the next, well, very soon, by the way, what they're saying online. And this has been very helpful, the information that you have given, and not only for myself, but also for our listeners. And, my hope and my intention is that if there are those who are challenged with this, to reach out to find out more about what they can do to address potential problems. Kelley, I'm just curious, how can our listeners get a hold of you if they want more information?
Dave, they can contact me through my website, which is woodshypnosis.com. And I'm happy to email or even, have a phone chat or on a Zoom call like this. I'm so glad that you attended my talk at HypnoThoughts and that you interviewed me here today because, it's my cause to get that word out that hypnosis can certainly help people before they get to that pathological state, before they really have to have that kind of intense intervention. Often hypnosis can be, a frontline approach for problems, and people don't realize that because they often come to us kind of as a last resort. They've tried everything else. And so I want to encourage your listeners to consider using hypnosis when they first start being aware that there might be a problem, because it's easy to learn and it works quickly. We know that, just several sessions can make a big difference to a person.
Well, thank you for being a guest today, Kelley, and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you, Cindy, Dave, and have a great weekend.
Thank you for joining us today with Awaken the Mind, hosted by David Juhas.
Yeah, relax. Awaken the mind, you need to understand. If you can't, you must, and if you must, you can. Now that I got you, let me put you in a trance. Got you feeling hypnotic, your mind, let me massage it. Your thoughts are getting quiet, your stress subsiding. You starting to see images, but it ain't no mirages. Think it's time to calibrate. Take a breath and concentrate. Get into your subconscious. Time to feel the energy, the brain waves. Let's go deep into your memory. Beware of self, let the worries melt. All you see is you and you don't see no one else. Auditory digital, talking to yourself. It might seem bizarre, a feeling you never felt. This is your time to shine. Awaken the mind, the NLP and hypnosis guide. Yeah, come on.